Shalom Israel, with the Israelite School, Universal Practical Knowledge, started at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yohana. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group nor any other Christian organization. All right, if you guys have any questions, make sure you put into the live chat before we start the class. It's all right. If you guys have any questions, like if you guys have a question on a scripture, or y'all need a scripture to be broken down, make sure you put it into the live chat, all right? So tonight's class is the history class. It's very, very important for so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to attend these classes. Like, to know our history. If we do not know our history, we're not going to be able to get as far as we want to as a nation of people. Like, everybody on this earth, every nation on this earth, the Chinese, the Japanese, the countries within Africa, the Irish, the Portuguese, like, they know their history. Spain, Italy, these people know their history. Russia, Lithuania, they know their history. The problem is, blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, we don't know our history. That's because of slavery. That's because of the transatlantic slave trade. It's very, very important for so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to know our history. Our history helps us know who we are. If we don't know who we are as a nation of people, and we don't know who we are as a people, then we're not going to know how to conduct ourselves. We're not going to know how to uplift ourselves as black people want to uplift ourselves. We're not going to be able to uplift ourselves the way our Latino and Native American brothers want to uplift themselves. We're not going to be able to do that if we don't know nothing about history. History is very, very important. The Lord says, remember the generations of old. It's like it. The Lord says, consider the many generations. The Lord says, remember the days of old. The Lord also says the things are written aforetime or for our learning. Anything that was done in the past is very important for us to know, because we can either learn from it, right? We can either run from it or learn from it. It's either one of the two. It's best for us to learn from the past and learn from our history so we can become a better people. Like, that's what we have to understand. Like, it's very important for so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right, to better ourselves as a nation of people. You know what I'm saying? A lot of black leaders, a lot of Latino leaders, a lot of Native American chiefs, they say they have the best interest for our people. But first things first, they don't even know how to lead our people. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you put it into the live chat, all right? So, tonight's class is a continuation of last week's class. All right, this is going to be part 2. Psalms 83, part 2, all right? So we're going to be talking about Psalms 83. All right, we're going to break down Psalms 83 just a little bit. All right, and we're going to focus on, we're going to be in Judges as well. I want to say Judges chapter 8. And we're going to focus on Zebah and Zalmunna. All right? Now remember, in last week's class, we talked about how we went to war with the Midianites. Like, Psalms 83 was a prayer coming from a brother, all right, from a brother Asaph or Asaph. Like, this brother was praying to the Lord about our enemies. Like, in the nation of Israel, if you are so-called black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are God's chosen people. And you are the nation of Israel. And God chose you. And what we have to understand as so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, right? We have enemies in the community. We have enemies surrounded about us. We have enemies surrounding us. We have enemies surrounded about us. Like, in the community, and even outside of the community, and within the country of America, the United States of America, we have enemies. You understand? Because of the Christian church, we don't realize that we have enemies. Because of our Christian pastors, you understand? Because of our Christian bishops and those ministers and those evangelists and the big mama and the mother of the church, we don't realize that we have enemies. We don't realize there's enemies trying to kill us and murder us and mass incarcerate us and push filthy, disgusting philosophies onto us. We don't realize that these type of things are destroying us. Like we don't realize that the philosophies of another nation of people is destroying us. Like these so-called Africans coming from Ghana, coming from Nigeria, coming from Algeria, coming from Egypt, coming from Ethiopia, coming from Rwanda. Like these nations of people are a part of our enemies. Like those are the very people that sold us into slavery. They are our enemies. Like black people were not selling other black people into slavery. Africans were selling black people into slavery. That's another part of history that the Christian church fails to teach us. That's another history, right? That's another part of history that America's school system fails to teach us. Black people were not selling other black people. Africans were selling black people into slavery. And those people are our enemies. And they come into our communities and they completely disregard the hell that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are living in. Like these people are our enemies. But we follow their culture and we want to be just like them. Like believing in zodiacs and believing, studying the stars and worshiping the stars, the moon and the sun, and talking about having zodiac signs and talking about the phases of the moon affect your spirit and affect your personality. You understand? Like this comes from another God. Like these things come from different gods. These things come from a different nation of people. That's not our culture. Like we never believed in zodiacs. We never believed in being a Aries and believed in being a Cancer or believed in being a Pisces or believed in being a Scorpio or being a Libra. Like we a Sagittarius. Like we never believed these things. Like that type of practice comes from another nation of people. And these philosophies and these practices come from a country and come from a nation of people that are our enemies. It is a very, very dangerous thing. And I mean a very dangerous thing to worship and to believe in the same God of your enemies. Because the Lord is against that. Our history is very important for us to learn. Because if we do not know our history, then we're not going to know the proper God to serve. We need to know the proper God we are supposed to serve. We need to know these things. All right. So this brother in Psalms 83, which is Asaph or Asaph in the Bible, all right, Asaph in the Bible, and this brother was praying to the Lord to make sure the Lord does certain things to our enemies. Why? Because your enemy is going to destroy you. Your enemy is the opposite of a friend. Your enemy is opposite of being friendly. Your enemy is the opposite of being your ally. Your enemy wants to harm you. Your enemy wants to destroy you. Your enemy wants to attack you. Your enemy wants to absolutely oppress you. And because your enemy wants to do these things, the brother Asaph in the Bible is praying to the Lord to destroy our enemies. And he requested, and the brother requested to the Lord to do unto our enemies, do unto them as unto the Midianites. Like that's what the Most High wants. Okay, that's what the brother wants the Most High to do to our enemies. Do unto them, meaning our enemies, these nations that are oppressing us. Salakia. These nations that want to harm us. These nations that want to throw us in jail and throw us in prison. These enemies that want to push disgusting philosophies onto our people and make them into sexual deviants and make them out to be homosexuals and lesbians and make them out to be absolutely effeminate and have a feminine spirit as a brother or a masculine spirit as a sister. Like these enemies want to absolutely destroy and harm our way of life that keeps us structured. Like this is what we have to understand. And the brother is asking the Lord, this brother is praying to the Lord and asking the Lord, please do unto them as unto the Midianites. Like this brother is asking the Lord to destroy his enemies because our enemies are destroying us. To take away someone's culture is to destroy them. To hide someone's culture is to destroy them. To make someone change their culture is to destroy them. That's what's going to destroy them. To force another people to do something outside of their culture, that's not a part of their culture, is going to destroy them. These are our enemies, and this is what our enemies want to do to us. So the Lord says in Psalms 83, all right, Psalms chapter 83, we're going to start at verse 9. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kishon. Like the Lord, this is the Lord, right? These are the words coming from the Lord. And this brother Asaph is praying to the Lord, saying, do unto them, meaning our enemies, right? Do unto them as unto the Midianites, meaning do to our enemies the same things that you've done to the Midianites. And we're going to break down in the next class, which will be a part 3, when it comes to Sisera and to Jabin. We're going to break that down. But let's skip down to 11. Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zebah. So it says, make their nobles like Oreb and like Zebah. Remember last class, we broke down the history of Gideon going to war. And we're also going to continue about Gideon going to war, but specifically with Zebah and Zalmunna. But Gideon, he went to war. He was from the tribe of Manasseh. He would be a so-called Cuban. All right, this brother would be a so-called Cuban. Now, this is the history of our northern tribe brothers going to war and fighting for the nation of Israel. All right, fighting for the nation of Israel. You understand? And this is Gideon. He was a so-called Cuban, man, and he went to war with the Midianites because of the oppression that this nation was doing to the nation of Israel. This nation, the Lord allowed this to happen because we chose to not keep his laws, statutes, and commandments. So Gideon had to get up and go to war, right, against the Midianites to save the nation of Israel. Like the Lord always raised up a man to lead the nation and to save the nation of Israel. It was never a woman. It was never a whole bunch of people. There was always one man that the Lord raised up, and under those men, he raised up other men. And Gideon went to war. And it says, make their nobles like Oreb and like Zebah. And Gideon went to war and chased these princes out. And these princes ran from Gideon and the men of Israel, and ended up being in the hands of the Ephraimites. Now the Ephraimites, the tribe of Ephraim, would be the so-called Puerto Ricans today. And literally, the tribe of Ephraim took Oreb and took Zebah and cut off their heads. They literally cut off their heads. This is what the Lord did to Oreb. That's why the brother is asking, make their nobles like Oreb and like Zebah. It says, make their nobles. Anybody know what a noble is? Anybody want to give it a shot? Anybody want to know what is a noble? What is a noble? Does anybody know what a noble is?
Gotcha. There you go. Hey, let me get back on.
Anybody know what a noble is?
There you go.
Does anybody know what a noble is? A noble is usually someone that is born into wealth. Someone that is born into a high class of people. Alright? That's usually what a noble is. Like a noble is usually a person of noble rank or birth, meaning someone that's born into class. Someone that's born into a lot of riches in a country. And it says, make their nobles like Oreb. Like the Lord right here. So like not the Lord, but the brother Asaph is asking the Lord and praying to the Lord to take down the men. Right? Most High in Christ, that's absolutely correct. High class is taking the men that are in a high class and to destroy them. Like Zebah and Oreb, their heads were cut off. Their heads were literally taken off by the tribe of Ephraim when Gideon went to war with the Midianites. And these were princes of the Midianites, Oreb and Zebah. Like, this is what we have to understand. The Lord, the brother Asaph or Asaph, is asking the Lord to do unto our enemies just like Oreb and Zeeb. Guess who else is born into a high class of people? Donald Trump is like a prince in America. Your Bill Clinton is like a prince in America. You understand? A lot of these politicians come from old money because of the slaves that their ancestors owned, and their great grandparents, right, made treaties with the Native Americans and robbed black people of all of their wealth and all of their riches during sharecropping and during the Jim Crow era, and they became very, very rich. They were taking the land of the Native Americans and taking all the oil of the land and starting oil companies and becoming very, very rich. And now their children's children are now born into wealth. That's how nobles are created. And the Lord is asking, the brother Asaph is asking the Lord, do unto Donald Trump just like you did to Oreb. Do unto Bill Clinton, do unto Mike Pence, do unto Mitt Romney, just like you did Oreb and like Zeeb. Cut off their heads. Like the Bible is not, listen, the Christian church destroyed the spirit behind the Bible. Like the Lord is very gruesome. The Lord is about warfare. In order for blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to really survive and live and to get out of the hell that we live in, our oppressors have to be put to death. Our oppressors have to pay for the crimes that they committed against our people. There is no other way. Just like the Germans had to pay with their lives because of what they did to the Jewish, just like those Arabs had to pay with their lives for what they did in New York in 2001 in September 11th, just like they had to pay with their lives. Well, guess what, America? You have to pay for your lives. You have to pay with your lives for what you've done against the Latinos, for what you've done to the Nativo Americanos, and what you did for the Los Negros in America. You have to pay for that, and you will pay for that. You have no choice. You have no choice. And guess what? It's prophesied in the Bible. That's why this brother Asaph is asking the Lord, do unto them as unto the Midianites. And then when you drop down to verse 11, make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeeb. Meaning make their princes, make their high-class people, make these people that were born into riches. The reason why our oppressor has so much money and wealth, because they stole it from our people. They got 400 years, almost 300 something years of free labor. Then they created a system of sharecropping. Then they constitutionalized slavery. Unless a man commits a crime, then he can go into slavery. This is how they completely robbed blacks and Latinos and Native Americans away from so much wealth, stealing our oil from our land. You understand that oil belonged to the Native Americans? You understand that, right? That's why George Bush's family has so much money, because they come from a family from oil. And they stole that oil from the Mexicans. They stole that oil from the Comanche and Apache. They stole that oil from the Nativo Americanos, the Native Americans in America. They stole that oil. They robbed that land. Then they struck black gold. And then they made money. And I mean a lot of money. Like the Rothschild family, a lot of money. A lot of these a lot of these oppressors, like Mike Pence and Donald Trump, they come from old money, from robbing blacks and Latinos and Native Americans during the sharecropping era, during the Jim Crow era, during the constitutionalizing of slavery era. That's how they made their money. Don't be fooled when they say I had to work hard for this. Even the Irish stole from blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans by the creation of unions. Do not be fooled, man. These people have to pay for what they've done. That's why the brother Asaph is asking for the Lord, do unto them as unto the Midianites. Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zebah. Because these people have to pay for what they've done. The Midianites, remember last class, the Midianites reduced our people into poverty. Just like America reduced our people into poverty. How do you reduce someone into poverty? You steal their wealth. You steal their riches. You oppress them. You make sure you take everything that they need to survive, and you make them depend on you to get them. If they need crops to survive, you make them depend on you to get those crops. If they need water to survive, you make them depend on you to get that water. If they need clothes to survive, you make them depend on you to get those clothes. This is how you reduce a nation to poverty. You take their resources and you make them depend on the resources that they need to survive. How else are you going to oppress a people? This is not rocket science. This is not something that I just made up. This is how you reduce a people into poverty. And this is what our oppressor did in America, just like the Midianites did to us in Israel. And that's why this brother asked, if he's asking the Lord, make their nobles like Oreb and like Zebah, meaning take their heads off. Zebah and Oreb, their heads were cut off. You understand? Split from their body. And the Ephraim, the tribe of Ephraim, which is the so-called Puerto Ricans today, gave them to Gideon. This is what the Lord is going to do to our enemies. And it's prophesied in the Bible. This is what we pray for in the ISUPK. Because this is the only way we're going to get out of the hell that we live in. And it's in the Bible. It's prophesied in the Bible. These are not our words. This is what the Lord wants. You might think this is what we want. This is what the Lord wants. This is not of our own doing, but this is going to be of the Lord's doing. We're just teaching you what's in the Bible. This is just the history in the Bible of what's going to happen to anyone that comes against the nation of Israel. That's all. Just like America makes us pay for our crimes, well, guess what, America? You got to pay for your crimes. It works both ways. You understand? Now, if anybody has any questions in class, don't forget to put it into the live chat. All right? If you guys have any questions, no sweat. All right? Yea, all their princes, as Zebah and as Zalmunna. So now the Lord is also asking. So like not the Lord. The brother Asaph is also asking the Lord. Yea, all their princes as Zebah and as Zalmunna. So now we got to know. Okay, who is Zebah and who is Zalmunna? What is the significance in Psalms 83 when it says all their princes as Zebah and as Zalmunna? So now we need to know who is Zalmunna, right? Who is Zebah and as Zalmunna? Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to be in Judges chapter 8. And we're going to break down who these people are and who this nation is and what was done. Because we want to know what the Lord is going to do to our enemies. Like Christians believe when Christ returns, there's going to be a bunch of hugs and kisses and rainbows and singing along with Negro spirituals, talking about Kumbaya, my Lord, and we can all come together and heal the world and all this type of nonsense. This is not, no. The way the Lord is going to heal the world, He's going to take out the virus. Like in order to kill, like listen, if you want to live and survive, right? If you want to heal the world, like Michael Jackson was singing about, that means you are sick, meaning you have some form of disease and you have some form of virus. Well, you're going to have to kill that virus to live. You're going to have to get rid of that disease to live. Well, there's a disease on this earth and there's a virus on this earth. And the Lord is going to exterminate that virus. And the Lord is going to get rid of that disease so everyone else can live peacefully on this earth. Especially the people that the Lord chose to be His people. He really wants us to live in peace and in harmony. And there's going to be some viruses and some diseases taken out. You understand? The Lord says the Bible was given, not the Bible. The Lord says the earth was given unto the wicked. We have to understand these things, man. Hey, princess, Bobo Kushai, back up a little more. Take all that and back it up. Bobo Kushai.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The water. Oh. So now let's get Judges chapter 8. Let's get Judges chapter 8. Let's get it. So first, I'm gonna go back to Judges chapter 7 real quick, and I'm gonna start at verse 25, and I'm gonna start at verse 24. You know what, Salakia? Verse 23, final answer. All right, verse 23. All right, because I want to also break this down too. All right, I'm gonna do a little recap. Judges chapter 7, verse 23. And the men of Israel gathered themselves together out of Naphtali, and out of Asher, and out of all Manasseh. So you have three tribes right here. You have Naphtali and Asher, all right, and Manasseh. Now you have to understand, like these are the so-called, okay, you got Naphtali, Asher, Manasseh, you got the Cubans, you got the Colombians, you got the Peruvians with you, got the Costa Ricans with you, you got the Panamanians with you. Like these are the people that went to war with the Midianites. You understand? I understand a lot of brothers and sisters talk about Judah in the Bible, but let's give the big ups to the to the Asherites and the people of Naphtali and Manasseh going to war with the Midianites to take up the oppression that was going on in Israel. Like we are a warrior nation of people. Now Judah is a very strong tribe too, but all the 12 tribes of Israel is very strong. Issachar is strong. Zebulun is strong. Naphtali is strong. Asher is strong. Manasseh is strong. We were all warriors. We were all soldiers. We all knew how to fight. We were all valiant men. We were all men of war. We would go to war with you. We were not cowards. You understand? So do not take us lightly, man. You understand? Don't take us lightly. So it said, and pursued after the Midianites. So they pursued after the Midianites, meaning they went after the Midianites. Like there was no doubt about it. We went to war with the Midianites. All right? And the tribes was Naphtali, Asher, and Manasseh. You understand? Verse 24. Hey, Bubba Kushab. Everybody. Sons, go sit down for me. All right? None of that. Bubba Kushab. I design. Okay, sit down for me. All right? The water. Verse 24. And Gideon sent messengers throughout all Mount Ephraim. So now the Lord, now Gideon was the brother, right, that the Lord put in charge at this time to save Israel. All right, and he came out of the land of Manasseh. Throughout all Mount Ephraim, all right, saying, come down against the Midianites. So he went to Mount Ephraim. Now Ephraim, all right, this is talking about the so-called Puerto Ricans, right? Now, yeah, if you are an Ephraimite, you would be a so-called Puerto Rican today. And so Gideon at this time sent messengers to the Puerto Ricans. You understand? Now take in consideration at this time too. Well, this is after. But remember, Joshua was also an Ephraimite. Hey, warrior, Hatazan. I'm not going to say it again. Go sit down, Bubba Kushab. Now that's enough. Now y'all relax. Now it says, and Gideon sent messengers throughout all Ephraim, saying, come down against the Midianites. So they went down, right? All right, and sent messengers to the so-called Puerto Ricans because it was about to go down. It was game time. They were pursuing after the Midianites. The Midianites, they had the tail between their legs. It was getting serious. It was time. It was time to go to war. All right, it was time to go to war, and they were chasing Midian down. All right, and take before them the waters unto Beth Barah and Jordan. Then all the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and took the waters unto Beth Barah and Jordan. So all the Ephraim, man. So the men of Ephraim, which would be the so-called Puerto Ricans, they got ready for war. They got the message. Midian was coming their way. They're getting ready to go out to war. They said, all right, bet. We'll meet them there, and we're gonna get down, and we're gonna get down to business. Right? It's game time. Hey, Hatazan. No sweat. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and go. Go to the room. Bubba Kushab. That's it. I warned you. Hey, Adalam. No sweat. Don't worry about it. You too. Go to the room. No sweat. So now, when it comes down to it, then all the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and took the waters unto Beth Barah and Jordan. So it was game time. It was serious after this. Like they would get, like, you know what? The so-called Puerto Ricans, right? This is the tribe of Ephraim right here. They getting ready. We're going to meet Midian when they're going to meet them. It's going down. It's time to get down to business. All right? It's game time. Verse 25. And they took 2 princes of the Midianites. So they took the 2 princes of the Midianites. All right? Oreb, and Zebah. So now you got Oreb, one of the princes, Oreb, and now Zebah. So Ephraim got him. Right? The so-called Puerto Ricans, they got him. All right? They got the princes. And they slew. And they slew. It says, and they slew. And they slew Oreb upon the rock Oreb. And Zebah they slew at the winepress of Zebah, and pursued Midian, and brought the heads of Oreb and Zebah to Gideon on the other side of Jordan. So the so-called Puerto Ricans, the Ephraimites, they found Oreb, they got Zebah, they slew him on these rocks and at the winepress, and they took their heads and they brought them to Gideon. Now that's gangster right there. That don't sound weak to me. Like this is the history that our brothers need to hear, man. Like we're not saying go out there. We're not saying go out there to go ahead and kill your enemies and start cutting the heads off your enemies. No. But we're trying to teach the spirit that our brothers had in the times of old. We were warriors. We were soldiers. You understand? We took the heads of our enemies and gave it to the generals that were over us and say, this is what we did. We won. This is the head of the people that were oppressing us. Like that's the type of spirit we had. Understand? And we need that very same spirit today to fix the nation of Israel, to fix the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, to fix the Nativo Americanos. You understand? To fix the local Latinos. You understand? To fix the Los Negros. Like this is what we need to do to fix our people. This is the spirit that we have to have. And it says, and brought the heads of Oreb and Zebah to Gideon on the other side of Jordan. Like this is what we did. This is what the so-called Puerto Ricans did. This is what we went to war with. Naphtali went to war. You understand? The Asher went to war. Manasseh went to war. The Colombians went to war. The Cubans went to war. The Panamanians went to war. The Costa Ricans went to war. The Peruvians went to war. The Brazilians went to war. You understand? Like we have to understand, we went to war, man. El Salvador went to war. We went to war with the Midianites, man, and we conquered them, and we took the heads of their princes. That's why the Lord said, "Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zebah." Like this is what the Lord wants. This is what the Lord is going to do to our enemies that are coming up against us, that are oppressing us, and that are pushing these filthy, disgusting philosophies on us to follow and to keep. Like the Lord wants us to separate from these other nations of people and to serve Him and to keep His laws, statutes, and commandments. Like this is the history of our people. Like this is the history of the nation of Israel. This is the history of the northern and southern tribes. We need to bring back this soldier spirit. We need to bring back this masculine spirit. We need to bring back this spirit of going against our enemies and serving the Lord. That's the spirit that we need to have. Separate from our enemies, go against our enemies, and serve the Lord. That's the spirit that we need. All right? That's the spirit that we have to have. Now let's go to Judges chapter 8. Let's get Judges chapter 8. Judges chapter 8 verse 1. And the men of Ephraim said unto him, why hast thou served us this? Slacken, not this. Why hast thou, meaning you, Old English for you, served us thus? Thus is Old English for this. So Salaki, that's why I said this. All right. So Ephraim is asking Gideon, why did you serve us this? Why did you give us this? Like, why did you send Midian this way? Like, why did you do this to us? All right. And here's why. This is why Ephraim is asking this. This is why the men of Ephraim is asking this. That thou callest us not when thou wantest to fight with the Midianites. Meaning, why didn't you call us ahead of time? Like, are we not the nation of Israel? Aren't we supposed to be fighting together? Why did you wait until now to get us involved? We should have been there in the front lines to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Listen, this is how much of a warrior spirit we had in people. We got mad because we weren't in the fight. You understand? We mad because why didn't you call us first? Like, why didn't you get us in the fight to begin with? Like, we mad because we weren't there in the beginning. Like, this is the spirit that we had as a people, man, especially as men. Like, the men of war, like the men of Israel, the men of the nation of Israel, we got angry at each other if you didn't call us first and be like, hey, yo, it's time to get down. That's what we getting mad about right now. You understand? We won't get mad about stupid stuff. We won't get mad about what's going on, you know, all that other stuff. We were mad because you didn't get us to go to war. That's how strong we were. That's how masculine we were. That's how militant we were. That we got angry that you didn't call us for war. We won't dodge in wars. We won't try to find a way out of war. We were trying to find a way into war. Like, hey, yo, why didn't you call us this? You understand? We know how the Midianites are oppressing us. We wanted some too. Person, go ahead.
My brothers are out there living.
When thou wentest to fight with the Midianites, and they did chide with him sharply, right? And does anybody know what it means to chide? Does anybody know what it means to chide? It's quite, you know. And it says, and they did chide with him sharply, meaning Ephraim. They chided with Gideon sharply, meaning they were angry. They were angry with Gideon, right? They were angry. They were upset with Gideon. Like their voice, it was with chide. It was with anger. They were mad that you didn't call us to begin with to fight. So this was Gideon's response in verse 2. And he said unto them, what have I done now in comparison of you? Meaning, what have I done now in comparison of you? Meaning, what have I done compared to you? Right? Is not the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? Right? So he's saying, is the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? Meaning, isn't the rest of Ephraim, right, better than what we got going on right now? Right? Verse 3. God hath delivered into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb and Zebah. Meaning, so Gideon is saying the Lord delivered these men into your hands. Right? He delivered the prince Oreb and the princes Zebah, the princes of Midian, in your hands, Ephraim. That's what the Lord did. And what was I able to do in comparison of you? Meaning, what was I able to do? Because Gideon's like, what was I able to do in comparison to you? Compared to you, the Lord did not deliver Oreb in my hands. Like the Lord did not deliver Zebah in my hands. Compared to you, the Lord delivered Zebah and Oreb in your hands. Right? Then their anger was abated toward him when he had said that. So now they're like, you know what? I'm all right with you saying that. This is a real. I want y'all to. I want to break. Even though this is not the brotherhood class, I want you to understand the brotherhood Gideon had with the men of Ephraim just then. He wanted to make sure he was trying to explain to the Ephraimites. It was, there's no reason to be mad. If anything, you're better than me. You took the heads off of Oreb. You took the heads of Zebah. So that was brotherhood. He was like, you took the heads of Oreb and Zebah. So in comparison to you, what am I? What are we? All we did was pursue them. Like that was the brotherhood within Gideon to the Ephraimites. There was no combat of, you know what, man, I don't care what you think, what you got going on. Gideon didn't start talking slick at the mouth. He complimented his brother on how well he did in war and how he explained the Lord gave you these enemies in your hands for you to slay. Clearly. So in comparison to you, what am I? Even though the Lord did choose Gideon to go to war with the Midianites, remember that. The Lord chose Gideon to go to war with the Midianites, right? So the Lord was with Gideon. And the Lord was with Gideon so much that he discomforted the enemies, right? He discomforted the Midianites, and they were on the run. So the Lord was with Gideon. But the brother Gideon humbled himself to the point where he said, well, the Lord was clearly with you, because I didn't get Oreb and Zeed. You cut their heads off and gave them to me. So in comparison to you, you know what I'm saying? What did I do? Like, that was a brotherhood moment right there. Does everybody kind of understand where that brotherhood was coming from? Does everybody understand the brotherhood that Gideon had to the men of Ephraim? Let me know if it's, if you don't understand the brotherhood portion of that. If not, I'll try to break it down. But the brotherhood was Gideon humbled himself. All right, Gideon humbled himself. All right, that was a humbling experience for Gideon. Gideon humbled himself to Ephraim. All right. Because remember, Gideon was the man who the Lord did choose to be with, and to go to war. All right, so the Lord was with Gideon. All right, the Lord was definitely with Gideon. But he humbled himself and said, well, the Lord had to be with you, because I didn't get Oreb and Zeed. You did. You understand? Even though the Lord said, I'm gonna give the Midianites into your hand, Gideon. But Gideon said, well, clearly the Lord was with you because you slew Oreb and Zeed. Everybody understand that? All right. Just let me know if you don't. But that was just a brotherhood and humbling experience. All right. Verse 4. Judges chapter 8, verse 4. And Gideon came to Jordan and passed over, he and the 300 men that were with him, faint yet pursuing them. Meaning so Gideon was still going after, man. They were faint, they were tired, but they were still pursuing their enemies. They were still pursuing Midian. Like we in the ISUPK, in the Israelite School Universal Practical Knowledge, there are no excuses, man. We are about warfare. We go to war. If you are a priest and prophet of the Lord, you are to go to war. We do not make excuses to not go to war. We got angry because we did not go to war. So why are we going to make excuses to not go to war? Like, this was the spirit of the men of Israel. Like, this was the spirit of the warriors and soldiers of Israel. We did not make excuses to not go to war. We got angry at each other when you did not tell us to go to war. That's why Ephraim was so angry with Gideon. He was like, you should have called us from the beginning. We wanted some too. Right? But this whole event was of the Lord, of course. Right? But Ephraim got angry because Gideon did not get them to go to war. Why? Because Ephraim was also being oppressed by Midian. They wanted to get some too. They wanted to get some real bad. So now they angry like, hey, yo, why you hit me up first? Right? Why you hit me up first? This was the spirit that we had as the men of Israel. Like, this is the spirit that us soldiers had. Like, this was the spirit that our government officials had in the nation of Israel. We were about warfare, and we got angry that we couldn't go to war. We were angry that we could not go to war. And we were not making excuses to not go to war. You understand? Let's go to verse 5. Judges chapter 8, verse 5. And he said unto the men of Supk, give, I pray you, loaves of bread unto the people that follow me. So now the Lord said in verse 5, Judges chapter 8, verse 5. All right. And he said unto the men of Supk, give, I pray you, loaves of bread unto the people that follow me, for they be faint, and I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna, kings of Midian. So now we know, so now, here we go. It says, and said unto the men of Supk. So these were men that were in Supk, right? Supk. Give, I pray you, loaves of bread unto the people that follow me. So Gideon is asking the men that are in Supk, give me bread. Give me the bread for the men that follow me, meaning the soldiers, the 300 men that are with me going to war with Midian. Give them bread. For they be faint, because we're tired. We're pursuing. You know what I'm saying? We're going to constant warfare. We're running after our enemies. We're going to straight war, man. Like, that was the spirit of the brothers. You understand? That was the spirit of the men of Israel. Constantly going to war. War after war after war after war, man. All right? Battle after battle after battle. And I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna. So now Gideon is saying, I'm pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna. Right? Kings of Midian. So now we know who Zebah and Zalmunna is. Zebah and Zalmunna are the kings of Midian. So Zebah and Oreb are the princes of Midian, right? The princes of Midian. Then Zebah and Zalmunna are the kings of Midian. Keep that in mind. That's the history. Like, now we're going to get down and understand Psalms 83. Remember, Oreb and Zebah, they're the princes of Midian. Then Zebah and Zalmunna, they are the kings of Midian. All right. Verse 6. And the princes of Supk said, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thine hand, that we should give bread unto thine army? Right. So now the prince of Supk is asking Gideon, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thy hand? So they're asking. So you're saying Midian is now in your hand, that we should give bread unto thine enemy. So because Midian is in your hand, we should give you bread. Verse 7. And Gideon said, therefore, when the Lord hath delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. So now it said, therefore. All right. So now he said, and Gideon said, therefore, when the Lord hath delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into mine hand, then I will tear your flesh. I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. Now, is Gideon literally saying he's going to tear the flesh with the thorns of the wilderness? This is spiritual. What is he saying? Anybody know? Okay, first things first, we're going to understand what is, anybody online in class, what is the wilderness? Anybody know what the wilderness is? What is the wilderness? Anybody in class, online, what is the wilderness? Does anybody know what is the wilderness? In the Bible, does anybody know what the wilderness is? What is a wilderness? Does anybody know what a wilderness is? Remember, what Gideon is saying right now is spiritual. What is the wilderness? Anybody know what the wilderness is? I'm going to give y'all the actual definition of a wilderness. Wilderness, a tract or region uncultivated and uninhabited by human beings. An area, all right, an area essentially undisturbed by human activity together with its natural developed life community. An empty or pathless area of region. All right. Wild or an uncultivated state. Meaning the wilderness, meaning there's nothing there. There's barely anything there. It's not cultivated. There's nothing growing like that. Like this is something you're going to have to tear down and build up. Like the wilderness is like it's almost inhabitable. Like you're in the wilderness. Like it's almost in absolutely nothing. You're in nowhere. Like to be in the wilderness meaning you are in a bad state. If I was living in the wilderness, like let's say right now, right, I stay in the state of Virginia, and I stay in a city, right? I stay in the city. I have a place, an apartment. I have a sleep in the bed, whatever. I'm in a nice area. I'm in a safe area. I can go to the store. I can do this. There's crops being grown, right? This is a city. But if I went into the wilderness, would I have all the things that I have now? No. I would be around a bunch of jungle, a bunch of animals. I would be in the wilderness, right? Meaning I would be in a place where I would have to literally, if I want to survive and live, I would have to tear everything down and build something up new. Meaning this place is not inhabitable where I'm at. Meaning I'm in a worse state than I'm already in. Meaning I am in a poor state at the moment. I'm at the bottom. If I'm in the wilderness, I'm damn at the bottom. So when Gideon is saying, right, when Gideon said, then it said, therefore, when the Lord hath delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, meaning when the Lord delivers the king Zebah and King Zalmunna of Midian, that's Zalmunna, these are kings of Midian, all right? Zebah and Zalmunna, these are kings of Midian. When have delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with bears. Meaning, I'm going once these brothers are gone. Once these kings are in my hand, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to build this city back up. Why? How is he going to do that? Because it's the kings of Midian. It's the Midianites that are oppressing the nation of Israel. You understand? It's the Midianites that are in charge and that are in control of Supk. And Supk is being oppressed. The men of Supk are being oppressed by the Midianites. So the only way to do what Gideon is saying is we're going to have to take these kings and utterly destroy them. So when the Lord delivers these kings in my hand, I'm going to come back and I'm going to build this land up. And this land is going to be free from the rule of these terrible, evil people, which are the Midianites. Verse 9. It's like it. Verse 8. And he went up thence to Phanuel, and spake unto them likewise. So just like how Gideon spoke to the men of Supk for bread, for the men that are with him, because they are faint, after constant battles and war with Midian. He did the same thing when he went to Phanuel, and spake unto them likewise, just like how he spake and spoke to the men, all right, of Supk. And the men of Phanuel answered him as the men of Supk had answered him, right? So the same way Supk answered, right, is the same way the people of Phanuel answered too, all right? Verse 10. So like in verse 9. So Judges chapter 8, verse 9. And he spake also unto the men of Phanuel, saying, when I come again in peace, I will break down this tower. Say, when I come here in peace, I will break down this tower. Does anybody know what this tower is? Does anybody know what this tower is? Can anybody give me a guess online or in class? What's this tower? Remember, this is spiritual. This is spiritual. Not an actual tower. It's not an actual wilderness. These things are spiritual that Gideon is saying. Like if I say I'm going to take down this building, am I really taking down a building? If I say I'm going to destroy this foundation, am I really destroying an actual foundation? So what is this tower? I'm going to break down this tower. Anybody know what this tower is? Anybody want to give it a guess? What's this tower? What's this tower? It says Judges chapter 8 verse 9. And he also spake, and he spake also unto the men of Phanuel, saying, when I come again in peace, meaning when he comes back to Phanuel in peace, I will break down this tower. What's this tower Gideon is going to break when he comes back? It's spiritual. Think about it. I want y'all to answer. I want y'all to get it. All right? Someone that I don't want no seasoned person answering. I know everyone else knows. I want y'all to guess. Come on, just guess. Give it a shot. I'll give y'all a few more moments before I get out the answer. Remember, it's spiritual. If I break down if I say I'm gonna break down this building, am I really breaking down a building? Am I breaking down an actual building? So when it says I will break down this tower, what is this tower that he's talking about? Think about it. A tower goes up really, really high, right? A tower is something that's built up very, very high, meaning this tower is over something. When you look, you have to look up to see a tower. You're looking up at a tower, meaning this tower is up high. It's over something. So what's this tower that the Lord said, right, I will break down this tower? Gideon said, I will break down this tower. Judges chapter 8, and he spake also unto the men of Phanuel, saying, when I come again in peace, I will break down this tower. This tower is talking about the government of Midian. Here's what it's talking about. The power that Midian has. The government that Midian has, he's going to break it down. You understand? Because the Lord is going to deliver Midian into the hands of Gideon. Like this is in the Bible. Like this we have to understand what Psalms chapter 83 is really saying. When it says yea, all their princes, as Zebah and Zalmunna, this is what the Lord is talking about. You understand? Gideon going to war and finding the king Zebah and king Zalmunna. Remember, Zebah is a king of Midian. Zalmunna is a king of Midian. Now we know who Zebah and Zalmunna is. So now when we read Psalms 83, we know now when we are praying and asking the Lord to do to our enemies just like you did to Zebah and Zalmunna, now we know we're asking the Lord to do to our enemies the same thing that you did to King Zebah of Midian and King Zalmunna of Midian, the kings of Midian. Now we know. Like we need to know listen, a lot of us, we need to know what we're praying for, right? You may want to know what you're praying for. I'm just saying. It's okay if you didn't know, but you may want to know what you're praying for. Because this is something serious now. Prayers are serious. We are requesting and asking the Lord to destroy our enemies. That's a serious thing. If the Lord destroys our enemies, then we're not going to have to live in the hell that we're living in America right now. If the Lord does to our enemies like he did to Oreb and Zeeb, we wouldn't have to suffer police brutality in the black, Hispanic, and Native American community. We wouldn't have to suffer on the reservations. You understand? We wouldn't have to suffer the crack epidemic and the coke epidemic. We don't have to suffer from the war on drugs and chemical warfare against the black, Hispanic, and Native American community. We wouldn't have to suffer fathers not being in the home and our sons being thrown in jail or being murdered at the youngest of 10 years old like Tamir Rice. We wouldn't have to worry about these things if the Lord does to our enemies like the Lord did to Oreb and like Zeeb. Like we really want to know what we're praying for. You understand? But this is what we're praying for. This is what we're asking the Lord to do. This is why we serve the Lord. This is why we keep God's laws, statutes, and commandments. Because we want our enemies to fail in the sight of our people and see how great the power of the Most High really is. Do you know how a magnificent and beautiful sight that would be? To see the Lord destroy our enemies in front of our faces. That's why it says, make them afraid with thy storm. You understand? Make them afraid with thy storm. That's what the Lord says that. The Lord is going to send storms to America. Earthquakes, tornadoes, hailstorms. The Lord just said in the previous chapter how the Lord sent hail from the sky and it killed more soldiers than the men of Israel killed in the battle. Like when the Lord is on your side, it's a very beautiful thing, man. It's a very beautiful thing to see how beautiful it is for the Lord to be on your side. Do you know how beautiful this world would be if we never have to deal with our oppressors the way we're dealing with them now? Imagine never seeing a Donald Trump again, and a Mike Pence again, and a Bill Clinton again, and a Ronald Reagan again. That's a beautiful sight. Let's keep reading, man. That'll be a beautiful sight. Let's get it. It says, I will break down this tower. I mean, the beginning is going to take down Midian, the government of Midian, man. The rulership and the power that Midian has in this land. Verse 10. Judges chapter 8, verse 10. Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and their host with them. So now this is where Zalmunna, this is where King Zebah and Zalmunna was. They were in the land of Karkor. All right, they were in Karkor, and their army was with them. That's what a host is. A host is an army. All right. That's why when the Bible says the Lord of hosts, meaning the power of an army. Like the Lord was always about warfare. Like the Christians want to say the Lord of hosts, but they don't know what a host is. A host is an army. So their army was with them in Karkor, about 15,000 men. So the King Zalmunna and King Zebah, they have 15,000 men. Now think about it. They have 15,000 men. Does anybody remember how many men Gideon has? Does anybody remember how many men Gideon has? Think about it. These other nations have 15,000 men. But how many men? How many men does Gideon have? Does anybody remember? How many remembers how many men Gideon has? From last class, if you were there. How many men do Gideon have? How many men? Just imagine. Think about it. If you remember. How many men did Gideon have? I'll give y'all some time to remember. How many men did Gideon have? Anybody who remembers how many men Gideon had? It's a shocker. It's a shocker once you realize. So Gideon, he had 300 men. So now Gideon has 300 men. Remember, the Lord said, take these 300 men, right? So we know for sure that when you go into this war against the Midianites, you know that the Lord was with you. You understand? Like the Lord wanted to make sure, right? Because remember, no other nation, right? No other nation would possibly go to war with just 300 men and expect to live and survive. That takes courage, man. That takes true trust in the Lord. You understand? That takes true trust in the Lord and true faith in the Lord to be with you. Just to take 300 men to war. You understand? No one would ever be that courageous to do something like that. But the men of Israel was. That's how important it was to serve the Lord so the Lord could be with you. Gideon had 300 men. You understand? And he went to war, and he's about to go against 15,000 men, which the kings Zebah and Zalmunna have. That's the host that they have with them. Let's continue reading. All that were left of all the host of the children of the east. So this is all they had left. Like this was the children of the east. This is all they had left. This is all they had. The rest, the Lord was with us. You understand? And they were wiped off the map, damn near. All right. So the only men that Midian has right now is 15,000 men. So only 15,000 men left. For there fell 120,000 men that drew sword. So there were 120. There was 120, meaning 120,000 men that fell with the sword. You understand? Like, this is how serious it is, man. 120 men. 120 men fell with the sword. And Gideon only had 300 men. Let that sink in. Let that sink in, man. We can have 300 men with the Lord on our side, and the Lord will take down 120,000 men for you, even though you have 300 men. I don't know, listen, I don't know that type of math, but 300 compared to 120,000, that's not even a quarter of how many men they had. That's not even a quarter. I mean, like, literally, that's not even a 25% of the men that they had. 300 out of 120,000? Is that even a quarter of men? I think even for that to be a quarter, you would either have to have 3,000 or 30,000 men. I want to say 30,000. Even for that to be you would have to have 30,000 men to even have a quarter of many men that the Midianites had. I believe it was either 3,000 or 30,000. But we had 300 out. You understand? We had 300 men out. There's no excuse, man. There's no excuse, man. It's time for us to go to war. You understand? And the fight that we're in is a spiritual war. You understand? The war that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Americans are in right now is a spiritual war that we're in. And we need to we need to fight this war, and we need to win. That's why it's so important. If you are a priest and officer in this truth, man, you need to go to war. We as officers in ISK, we need to go to war. No excuses. Our people got angry for not going to war. You understand? Our people got angry for going to war. Ephraim was mad as hell with Gideon for not hitting them up. You understand? But out of brotherhood and out of the humble spirit Gideon had, you understand? You understand? He abated the anger of Ephraim, man. This is the spirit that we need to have as brothers, man. Of men of the Lord. If you want to be a man of the Lord and be a soldier of the Most High, that's the type of spirit you need. Get angry at your brother because he didn't let you know we were supposed to pass out flyers last week. Get angry at your brother. That's brotherhood. All right? Get angry at your brother. Why didn't you tell me we were passing flyers out last week? I would have came. Like, that's the type of spirit that we need. Why? Because Ephraim had that very same spirit towards Gideon. Because when they went to war to first off with the Midianites. All right? That's all. And this is the type of spirit the men of the Lord had. And that spirit is only found in the Israelite school of universal practical knowledge. That's why we had brothers going to Acuna, Mexico, in Mexican cartel territory, and feed our Haitian brothers that were refugees coming into Mexico. That's because we had that courage. And we had that spirit of we are going to war regardless. Feeding our people is going to war. Clothing our people is going to war. How? That's fighting against our oppressor not feeding us. That's fighting against our oppressor not clothing us. You understand? That's fighting our oppressor not risking it at all for us. You understand? That's the spirit that we have. That's the spirit we have in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, in the ISUPK, and it's not found anywhere else. So those other fake Israelite groups that y'all talking about, they're garbage. Forget about them. They ain't nothing. All right. Give me a hand because I did not cuss. All right. The water, I did not cuss. So give me a hand. I've been working on it. Most High in Christ. All right. Let's continue. Judges chapter 8 verse 10. Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Kakor, and their host with them, about 15,000 men, all that were left of all the host of the children of the east. For there fell in 120,000 men that drew swords. So 120,000 men fell in the sight of 300 men, because the Lord was on our side. Verse 11. And Gideon went up by the way of them that dwelt in tents on the east of Nobah and of Jegbahah, of Jogbahah, and smote the host, for the host was secure. So Gideon went by the way with the tents to the east of Nobah, all right, of Nobah and Jog, all right, Jogbahah, and he smote the host. Meaning he went to war with that army and he smote them. All right. Verse 12. And when Zebah and Zalmunna fled, so now here we go. These kings of Midian, they on the run again. You understand? They on the run. They get out of there. And when Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued after them. So listen, 15,000 men, 300 men slew. They smote those hosts. That army, 300 men went against 15,000 men and won, and made the kings of Midian flee. Let that sink in, brother. Come on now. Am I the only one that thinks that's glorious? That must be a glorious sight, man. Like, that's how much power the Most High has for us if we keep His laws, statutes, and commandments. We will literally see 15,000 men of our enemies fall when we have nothing but a small percentage compared to them. Remember, we make 10 to 15% of the U.S. population. 18% of the U.S. population at most as blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. 18%. So imagine seeing roughly 82% of our enemies fall. Imagine that. Imagine 18% of America is Latino and Native American and so-called black. Roughly 18% at max. It fluctuates. Usually it's 10%. It jumps up to 15%, some 16%, but 18% at max. That's the population of Latinos and Native Americans and blacks in America. And imagine the Lord being on our side and He takes 82% of our enemies and makes them fall in front of us. That's a glorious sight. This is what the Lord just did. You understand? 300 men went against 15,000. You understand that, right? Everybody understand? That's roughly, that's a high percentage right there. Compared to us, 300 to 15,000, that's 3 times more people that we have. If you do 5,000 times 3, right? Or I should say, if you get 5,000 times 3, you would get 15,000. So 300. Right? We have 300. I mean, there's almost 2 times more men than what we have. Amen. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that sees that's glorious. I don't know. Let's continue reading. And when, verse 12, the Judges chapter 8, verse 12. And when Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued after them and took the 2 kings of Midian. So Gideon, he took the 2 kings of Midian. So he pursued them, he ran after them, and he got them. And he caught them. And he took the 2 kings of Midian. Zebah and Zalmunna, and discomfited all the host. So now he discomfited all the host. So now he got his hands on the kings of Midian. So remember, Zebah and Zalmunna, these are kings of Midian. All right, these are the kings of Midian. Verse 13. And Gideon, the son of Joash, returned from battle before the sun was up. So So Gideon, the son of Joash, so Gideon returns from the battle before the sun was up. So before the sun was up, meaning this was happening from sun to sundown. So we were at war at night. Do day and night. We read that in the previous chapter, in 7 and 6. All right, 7 and 6. How we were at war from day and night. From day and night. So Gideon returned from battle before the sun was up, meaning it was night. There was no sun out at this time. Verse 14. And caught a young man of the men of Supk, and inquired of him. So he found a man, he caught a man of Supk and inquired of him. Now the Lord is going to explain what information, that's what it means to inquire. Meaning to seek information. To inquire something means to seek information. Alright? That's why we say in the ISUPK we are the home of the truth. Because if you want to inquire about God, you have to go to the man in charge that the Lord raised up to tell you about God. Or to the men that man raised up to go to them to inquire about the Most High. That's in the Bible. You can find that in Numbers. It's like it. Exodus. You can find that in Exodus. Alright? And Numbers. And Deuteronomy. It's throughout the Bible. It's throughout our law. Alright? It's the law to inquire about God, to who the man put in charge. That's in the Bible. Alright? It's throughout the Bible. Moving on. Alright? And inquired of him. Now the Lord's going to explain what Gideon inquired. And he described unto him the princes of Supk, and the elders thereof, even 70 men. So now he asked, so he found a young man, and he inquired the information about the princes of Supk and the elders thereof. Alright? And there was 70 men. Right? So there was 47 men. Verse 15. And he came unto the men of Supk, and said, Behold, Zebah and Zalmunna. So he went to Supk and said, Hey, this is Zebah and Zalmunna. Behold, meaning look. There you go. Here's Zebah and Zalmunna. King Zebah and King Zalmunna. With whom ye did upbraid me, saying, Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thine hand? Does anybody remember what unbraid means? Does anybody remember what unbraid means? Anybody know? I'm sorry, not unbraid, Salakia. Upbraid. Anybody remember what upbraid means? When you upbraid someone, what does it mean to upbraid? It says, and said, Behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, with whom ye did upbraid me, saying. Right? What does it mean to upbraid? Anybody remember what it means to upbraid? Meaning to criticize. Meaning the men of Supk criticized Gideon when it came to if the Lord was going to deliver Kings Zebah and Zalmunna in his hand. Say, Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thy hand, that we should give bread unto thy men that are weary? So now, here we go. So now, this is what happens. This is what happens. All right, we're gonna break it down. Right, these two men, right? These two countries did not give Gideon any bread. All right, so like if I didn't mention that earlier, these things. So he was going to destroy. So like when Gideon came and said that we needed bread, he did not feed the Lord's people. When he went to Phanuel, they did not feed who the Lord was with. And they criticized him. And they did not give him bread. So this is what happens. So he brought them Zebah and Zalmunna. Verse 16. And he took the elders of the city and thorns and thorns of the wilderness and briars. And with them he taught the men of Supk. Just like what he said he was going to do. He was going to take the thorns in the wilderness. He's going to take these thorns, and he taught the men of Supk a lesson for not giving bread to the men of Israel, to the warriors of the men of Israel. He taught them a lesson. They should have gave him the bread. Verse 17. And he beat down the tower of Phanuel and slew the men of the city. Because Phanuel did this very same thing, and Gideon slew them. It was a very serious thing, man. We were at war with the Midianites. We were at war and trying to go after the king of Zebah and Zalmunna. And he said, if you wasn't going to give me that bread, all right, you're not going to give them to me? You're going to question me? Don't worry. When I come back, I'm going to go into the wilderness, and I'm going to get them thorns, and I'm going to teach you something. Phanuel, okay, I'm going to take down this tower. I'm going to take down this tower. I'm going to slay you. I'm going to take down that government of yours. I'm going to take it down. That government of that city, I'm taking it down. That's it. And he beat down the tower of Phanuel and slew the men of the city. Verse 18. Then said he unto Zebah and Zalmunna. So now Gideon is now talking to King Zebah and Zalmunna. What manner of men were they whom ye slew at Tabor? So now Gideon asked Zalmunna, King Zebah and Zalmunna, a specific question. And he said, what manner of men were they whom ye slew at Tabor? So what men did you slay at Tabor? What did they look like? What were they wearing? What kind of manner were they? Who were they? And they said, and they answered, as thou art, so were they. So they said, as you are, that's who they were. Just like you. That's who they were. However you look, that's how they were. Each one resembled the children of a king. It said each one resembled the children of a king. Meaning each one resembled the children of a king. Meaning what? These people resembled royalty. You understand? The children of a king. They resembled royalty. That's what they resembled. That's who they killed at Tabor. Someone that looked just like Gideon. Alright. Alright. Let's get it. Verse. Let's get it. Resembled the children of a king. Verse 19. And he said, they were my brethren. So Gideon said, they were my brethren. Now here we go. The people that they killed, this is Gideon. Remember, this is Gideon asked him a question. Hey, so the men at Tabor, what they look like? Right? He's asking like, hey, what these men look like? And they answered, they look just like you. They resemble the children of the king. Now Gideon said, they were my brothers. Now listen. Think of a mafia movie. Think about you just committed a crime against a family in the mafia. And you didn't even know it. Your heart would drop. Your heart would melt. You know why? Because you know what's going to happen next. You understand? We understand that, right? You know, in those mafia movies, you went against a family in there, and you didn't realize who you was going against. That was your life. Yeah, you remember that guy Lou? Yeah, man, I beat him up the other day. Oh yeah? That was my cousin. You had to get the hell up out of there after that. You had to go. Because whoever that was, he was going to kill you. For Lou. Well, guess what Gideon's going to do for Tabor? We're going to find out what Gideon's going to do for Tabor. And this is the Spirit of the Lord. And he said, they were my brethren, even the sons of my mother. They were the sons of my mother. But the youth, like it, the sons of my mother, as the Most High liveth, if ye had saved them alive, I would not slay you. They said, the sons of my mother. I mean, they were my brethren. These are the sons of my mother. You understand? As the Most High liveth, if ye had saved them alive, he said, as the Lord liveth. Now, this is black talk right here. I want everybody to know this is black talk right here. It's how black people talk now. This is how Latino people talk now. This is how Native American people talk now. He said, as the Lord liveth. What does that translate to today? It says, as the Lord liveth. What does that translate today? This is a black culture in the Bible right now. This is Latino culture in the Bible. This is real right here. What, as the Lord liveth? What does that translate to now? Anybody want to give it a shot? I want y'all to answer this. What's it translate to now? It said, as the Lord liveth. That's like, this is Gideon saying, like, on God. He said, this is saying on God. All right, Gideon was like, on God. Listen, this is how black people talk. On my mama. You know what I'm saying? But Gideon saying, on God, if you allowed them to live, I wouldn't even slay you. If you allowed my brothers to live, I wouldn't even slay you. On God, I wouldn't. This is black culture right here. If the Lord said, like it, Gideon said, as the Lord liveth, if ye had saved them alive, I would not slay you. On God, if you didn't kill them, I wouldn't even slay you. But guess what? That ain't the case, right? Verse 20. And he said unto Jephthah his firstborn. So Jephthah, this is his firstborn son, Jephthah. Up, meaning get up, and slay them. So Gideon said to his firstborn, hey, get up, slay them. Meaning, hey, yo, take their heads off. Slay King Zalmunna. I mean, it's like slay King Zebah of Midian, and slay King Zalmunna of Midian. Go ahead, young. Go ahead. But the youth drew not his sword, for he feared, because he was yet a youth. Like, this was something new to him. He was afraid. Understand? He was young at this. You know what I'm saying? He's new to being a warrior. He's new to being a soldier like this. You know, he was going to war, but this is something new to him. Right? Verse 21. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, rise thou and fall upon us, for as the man is, so is strength. Right? So then Zebah and Zalmunna said, so this is what Zebah and Zalmunna said. Now I'm gonna give them credit. They went out like some gangsters. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna lie to them. They went out like some gangsters. All right, I'll give it to King Zebah and Zalmunna. They got slayed like men. The Lord was with us. The Lord won't with King Zebah and Zalmunna because of what they did to the children of Israel. But I'll give them credit. They went out like men. Because this is what they said to Gideon. Rise down, meaning you get up, right? And fall upon us, meaning you slay us, right? For as the man is, so is his strength. Because they know that the Lord, they understood this was the man with the power. This was the man that the Lord was with. This was the man that led the army. This is the man that led the host. You fall upon us. That's what you do. And Gideon arose. So Gideon kindly accepted their offer, of course. He kindly did. And Gideon arose and slew Zebah and Zalmunna and took away their ornaments. And took away the ornaments that were on their camel's neck. So listen. This don't get no blacker, Latino, and Native American than this. We slayed you. Now run them pockets. Straight up. This is how we get down. That's how we get down in Israel. Listen, this is in the Bible. You mess with us, we taking the spoil. After, go, hey, Princess, go ahead and sit down. All right? And Boba Kushal, quiet down for me, all right? So now it says, all right, and took away the ornaments that were on their camels' neck. Ornaments. That's talking about jewelry, all that design stuff, all that. That's Israel right there. Once we win a fight, we run in them pockets. We didn't do that for no reason now. We want the only, that's part of warfare. Every nation did that. You know what I'm saying? Once they beat someone in war, they took the spoil. Well, guess what? We do the same thing. That's why when we beat somebody up, we run their pockets. Because, you know, we won. So now we take what we want. If you want that stuff back, you got to beat us for it. It's just that simple. That's just how the game goes. So guess what? Gideon ran them pockets of Zebah and Zalmunna. Verse 22. Then the men of Israel said unto Gideon, rule thou over us, both thou and thy son. So the men of Israel asked Gideon and requested from Gideon, rule over us, you and your son. And thy son's son also. Right? Meaning, generationally, he wanted Gideon's family, his sons, to rule over them. For thou hast delivered us from the hand of Midian. And here's the reason why. Because you delivered us from Midian. We know for sure, if you were able to deliver us from Midian with 300 men, then you're going to raise sons and more sons and sons after that to do the very same thing to protect us. You understand? Like, that's why they're asking, let your sons rule over us too. Because we know you're going to raise up strong sons, just like how you are strong, that was able to deliver us out the hand of Midian. Now, of course, the Lord did deliver us out of Midian. But we're just talking about from the level of Gideon is who the Lord used. All right? Verse 23. And Gideon said unto them, I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. The Most High shall rule over you. Now that was what? That's one west. You understand? That's one west. That's one west that Gideon just said. Gideon said, I said unto you, I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you. Meaning the Most High is going to rule over you. That's who's going to be over you. Now, of course, the Lord is always going to have a man over the nation of Israel. And Gideon was one of those men. And we'll get to it. But he was trying to make the children of Israel understand that we are to serve the Lord. Don't serve me, serve the Lord. I'm just the man that the Lord put in charge to save the nation of Israel. I'm nothing. Serve him. You understand? Keep his laws, statutes, and commandments. I'm not the one that protected you. You understand? The Lord is the one. Like that was Gideon giving the Most High his credit. Just like these other fake Israelites and Christians say that we don't, and they try to call us prideful and all this, it's a bunch of nonsense. We give the Lord his credit. You understand? We just know how the Bible works. That's all. Well, that's all. We just know how the Bible. We just know the Bible, and you don't. But let's continue. Verse 24. And Gideon said unto them, I would desire a request of you. Right? So now Gideon is asking a request from the men of Israel. That ye should give me every man the earrings of his prey. So the earrings of his prey. Does anybody know what a prey is? Does anybody know what a prey is? Alright. A prey is like, if I'm, okay. A prey is usually something that a predator is after, right? So when it says like the prey, Meaning, your prey is someone that you're after, someone you attacked, someone that you were going to kill. That would be your prey, right? So it says that ye would give me every man the earrings of his prey. So Gideon is asking the men of Israel, the soldiers that you took down, give me their earrings, right? For they had golden earrings because they were Ishmaelites. Remember, Midian, they're part of the Arabian tribes. All right, they're part of the Arabian tribes. Midian, they're part of the Arabian tribes. So it was Arab culture, it was Ishmaelite culture to have would have a golden earring in their ear. That's why it says, for they had golden earrings because they were Ishmaelites. It was Ishmaelite culture to have like a golden earring in their ear. All right, verse 25. And they answered, we will willingly give them. And they spread a garment and did cast therein every man the earrings of his prey. So now they laid down a garment and they put the earrings on the garment. They threw them in the garment. All right. Verse 26. And the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, beside ornaments and collars and purple raiment that was on the kings of Midian, and beside the chains that were about the camels' necks. So listen, Salaki, listen. We ran their pockets for real. Like this is Israel right here. This was the spirit of Israel. We ran your pockets after we won. Straight up and down. And that's what Gideon did. And this is talking about, and this is the southern tribe. This is talking about your Costa Ricans, your Panamanians, your Brazilians, your Peruvians, your Colombians, your Cubans. Hey, we ran their pockets, man. Don't get it twisted, man. What run your pockets? We won fair and square. The Lord was with us. Now give me the chain, the gold. Like that was our culture. We won. Give me those shoes that you got on. Give me that garment. That's a nice garment right there. Yeah, I can use this for something. That's a nice chain. Hey, yo, got those chains off that camel. Yeah, it got some weight to it. Oh yeah. Oh, like that was our culture. All right. Here you go. Listen, we were real about it. We won't soft. You understand? There was nothing soft about us. Verse 27. Judges chapter 8, verse 27. And Gideon made an ephod thereof, and put it in his city, even in Ophrah. And all Israel went thither, a whoring after it, which thing became a snare unto Gideon and to his house. So now when he did this, right, he built an ephod, all right, and because of so, then the people of Israel started to idolize it and worship it and going a whoring after it instead of serving the Lord. Verse 28. Thus was Midian subdued before the children of Israel, so that they lifted up their heads no more. And the country was in quietness 40 years in the days of Gideon. So for 40 years during Gideon, we were good. We were straight. All right. There we go. All right. Verse 30. It's like in verse 29. And Jerub-Baal, the son of Joash. Now Baal, it's like a Jerub-Baal. That's a nickname for Gideon. The son of Joash went and dwelt in his house, in his own house. Verse 30. And Gideon had 70. It's like, and Gideon had 70 sons, meaning he had 40 sons. All right, of his body begotten, for he had many wives. So Gideon, he had many wives. It was in our culture, all right, and it was the culture of the nation of Israel to have many wives. You are not going to have to be able to make 30 to 40 sons, and that's excluding daughters, just with one woman. All right. In order to build a nation of people, a man did not have one woman, and not every man of that nation only had one woman for himself. All right. Many brothers in that village, in that tribe, in that nation had more than one woman, and many children were made. All right. Verse 31. And his concubine that was in Shechem she also bare him a son, whose name he called Abimelech. All right. So there was another son he had, was Abimelech. Verse 32. And Gideon, the son of Joash, died in a good old age, and was buried in the sepulchre of Joash his father, and Ophrah of the Abizarite. All right. So these were Abizarites. These are just a family of the tribe of Manasseh. All right. Or the land of Manasseh. Verse 33. And it came to pass, all right, as soon as Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel turned again and went a whoring after Baalim, and made Baal-berith their god. So here we go. Once again, we just can't get right. You understand? Just can't get right. Verse 34. And the children of Israel remembered not the Lord their power, the Most High their power, who had delivered them out of the hands of all their enemies on every side. All right? So we literally forgot that quick what the Lord did for the nation of Israel to our enemies. At that time, it was the Midianites. Verse 35. Neither showed they kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, namely Gideon, according to all the goodness which he showed unto Israel. And neither did they care for what Gideon did. Like this is the problem that we have in the nation of Israel. Like that's why it's so important to come back and serve the Lord and to keep his laws, statutes, and commandments. This is the history of King Zebah and King Zalmunna, of how the Lord put our enemies to death. All right? This is how the Lord did it. All right? So now we know when we're sending up prayers and we say Psalms and we're praying and we're saying the words of Psalms 83, this is what we're asking the Lord to do to our enemies. We're asking the Lord to do our enemies like you did to Zebah and Zalmunna. All right? Slay them. Do unto them like Oreb and like Zeb. Cut their heads off. This is what we're praying for. Alright? This is what we're praying for. Because this is the only way the nation of Israel, so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, are going to be safe. Alright? And live in a heaven, right, which is the kingdom of heaven, which is going to be on earth, instead of living in the hell that we live in America. Alright? That's the class. With that I say Amadim, which means to stand. Men of Israel, we're going to give a curse salute to the brothers. Men of Israel, Amadim Shabbat, Amadim, Barak, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua Barakatham, Yadim Matah, Sala Agwaki. We turn to the sisters. Men of Israel, we're going to give a curse salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, Amadim Shabbat, Amadim, Barak, Yahweh Shamar Alathan Ba'ashim Yahushua, Yadim Matah. With that, class dismissed.